All right, so we're diving deep into Dave Ramsey's The Total Money Makeover today.
Oh, yeah, a classic.
And everyone's heard of those baby steps, right?
Right.
And his sort of no-nonsense, in-your-face style.
Yeah, tough love.
But we're going a little deeper this time.
Okay.
We're going to kind of look at the psychology behind it all.
Interesting.
Maybe challenge some of our own beliefs about money while we're at it.
I like it. What I think is so interesting about Ramsey is that he's not just talking about numbers. It's not just budgets and spreadsheets.
Right.
He digs into, like, the emotions and the cultural influences that shape our money habits without us even realizing it a lot of the time.
It's true. And I think that's why his approach is so effective, because it resonates with people on a personal level.
Definitely.
He's been there himself.
Right.
He always talks about his PhD in DUMB.
Oh, yeah.
Which is, dumb.
He doesn't sugarcoat it.
No, not at all.
It's refreshing.
Referencing those early struggles he had,
Right.
which, gives him a unique perspective, for sure.
For sure. And, that experience really gives him, I think, a good platform to kind of push back against that debt as a tool thing
Oh, yeah.
that we hear all the time.
It's everywhere.
It's like we're programmed to think we need it to get ahead.
Whether it's for a car or a house.
Or even to build your credit score, right?
Exactly.
Which brings us to, I think,
Yeah.
some of those big debt myths out there.
Oh, absolutely.
Like take 90 days, same as cash.
Ooh, yeah.
That sounds great, right?
It does.
But the reality is
yeah.
most people don't actually meet that deadline.
Right.
And then they end up paying a ton in interest.
Oh, totally. He actually tells a funny story in the book about a woman who financed her dog.
Wow. Okay.
Like, took out a loan.
No kidding.
To get a dog.
Yeah.
It just shows how easy it is to fall into these traps without even thinking about it.
Without thinking about the long-term consequences at all.
Right. And then he also goes after the idea that you need a credit card to build credit.
Right.
And he argues that, if you're following his plan, you can buy everything in cash.
Especially in those early stages.
Yeah.
When you're just laser focused on getting rid of that debt.
And that's definitely one of the more controversial pieces, I think.
It is. It goes against what, so many people say.
Right, exactly.
About establishing credit.
But Ramsey's point is relying on credit can just keep you stuck.
Oh, yeah. Stuck in that cycle.
That cycle, yeah.
It's not even just about avoiding debt,
Right.
It's about understanding, like, the whole psychology behind it.
The psychology of it, yeah.
Those debt myths really prey on, like, our desire for instant gratification. But in the end, they just lead to more stress, right?
So much stress.
Financial stress and anxiety.
Which, speaking of, leads us to one of Ramsey's most powerful concepts, I think.
Right.
Gazelle intensity.
The gazelle intensity.
He compares it to, like, a gazelle running from a cheetah.
Okay, I get it.
Like that level of focus and urgency, to break free from debt.
And to build wealth, right.
Especially in the beginning.
Especially in the beginning.
When you're first starting out.
Yeah.
So, think about someone who's, like, really going after their student loans.
Oh, yeah.
Or saving for that down payment.
Big goals.
Yeah, and it's not always easy, but that kind of intensity can make a big difference.
It can create some serious momentum.
It really can. And he tells a story about a guy named Chris.
Oh, okay.
Who was actually laid off from his job.
Oh, no.
But he had no debt.
Wow.
And a good emergency fund.
Oh.
So he actually saw it as an opportunity to start his own business.
That's amazing. That's really taking control of the situation.
And I think that story really highlights, like, the freedom that comes with being financially secure.
The options you have.
Exactly. When you're not, weighed down by all that debt.
Totally.
So you have more choices.
Yeah.
And you can take more calculated risks.
So how do you cultivate that gazelle intensity?
That's a great question, because it sounds good in theory, right?
It does.
But how do you actually do it?
In real life,
Yeah.
I think it comes down to a few things.
Okay.
First, like a vision,
Right, sure.
Like, what are your goals?
Yeah.
What do you want your life to look like? You gotta have that picture in your mind.
The end goal.
Exactly. And then set realistic goals.
Okay.
Don't try to do it all at once.
Right.
One step at a time.
One step at a time.
And find someone to keep you accountable.
Ooh, good point.
A friend, a family member.
Yeah, someone who can support you.
Absolutely.
And, Ramsey's not just about deprivation and hard work.
Yeah,
right?
right.
He believes in having fun, too.
He does.
But it's about finding that balance
Between
saving, spending,
and giving.
yeah, giving. Exactly.
He actually calls those the 3 good uses for money:
Interesting.
fun, investing, and giving.
I like that.
And that balance kind of shifts, as you go
Right.
through his famous baby steps.
Yeah, okay, so let's talk about those baby steps.
All right,
It's a 7-step plan, right?
Yep.
To guide anyone towards financial freedom.
No matter where they're starting.
Exactly. And I think what's so brilliant about them is they're not just a financial roadmap.
Mm-hmm.
They're almost like a psychological blueprint
I like that.
for changing your behavior
Yeah.
and building your confidence.
It's like each little win
Yeah.
fuels the next one.
You get that momentum going.
Exactly. It's like building a muscle,
Ew, I like that analogy.
Start with those lighter weights.
Yeah.
Then you gradually increase as you get stronger.
Okay, so let's dive into some of the key steps here.
Right.
Especially for, our listeners today.
Today, yeah.
So building that starter emergency fund,
Crucial.
Ramsey suggests aiming for $1,000.
Right, to start.
Yeah, it's not a long-term safety net or anything.
It's just enough
Yeah.
to cover those little unexpected things.
Those unexpected expenses.
Right, that always seem to come up.
Because it's about breaking that cycle, right?
Exactly.
Of relying on credit cards every time something happens.
Or going into more debt.
Exactly.
Yeah, this gives you some breathing room.
Yeah, and a sense of control.
Okay, so once you've got that little cushion,
Mm-hmm.
time for the debt snowball.
The debt snowball.
This is where you list all your debts,
Okay.
smallest to largest,
Okay.
and you focus on knocking out that smallest one first.
Interesting. So
Yeah.
not necessarily the one with the highest interest rate?
Nope, he really emphasizes
Okay.
the psychological impact of this.
Okay, so he's saying
Yeah.
even though it might not be mathematically the best,
Right,
it's better for,
for your mindset.
such your mindset.
Exactly.
So you get that feeling of
Gives you the
accomplishment,
motivation to keep going, yeah.
like you're actually making progress.
You see those wins, and you're like, all right, let's do this.
It's like decluttering,
Oh, I love that.
You clean out one drawer,
Yeah,
and suddenly you want to do the whole house.
you get that energy. I know exactly what you mean.
And then there's the big one,
Okay?
investing 15% of your income for retirement.
Yeah. A lot of people find this one daunting.
It feels like a lot, right?
It does, but he's all about,
Yeah.
the power of compound interest.
And it's never too late to start.
Never too late. Even if you start later,
Right.
consistent investing over time
Yeah,
makes a huge difference.
it really does. And that 15%,
Yeah.
he's very specific about this,
Yeah.
should be in good growth stock mutual funds.
For the long haul.
For the long haul, exactly.
And, just to be clear,
Yeah.
when he talks about that 12% average return,
Uh-huh.
that's over time. And of course, it's an average.
Right, it's not a guarantee.
It's not a guarantee, exactly.
When the market goes up and down,
Volatility is totally normal.
it's part of it.
But historically, over the long term,
Yeah.
the market has trended upwards.
It has. And it's not about getting rich quick,
Right.
It's about building that solid foundation
A solid foundation for your
for
future.
your future. And he shares so many inspiring stories.
Yeah.
People like Lily, the single mom who
Oh, yeah.
managed to save,
Unlimited income.
on a very limited income.
It's inspiring.
It really is.
Or that couple who discovered, real contentment
Yes.
by budgeting together as a team,
As a team.
which, it really drives home the point.
Yeah.
It's not about luck.
It's about choices.
It's about making those choices
And having a plan.
and having a plan. Exactly.
It's the beauty of the baby steps, I think.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
They give you that framework
For anyone.
for anyone to achieve financial freedom.
And speaking of those baby steps,
Yes?
we've only just scratched the surface.
I know, we're just getting started.
We'll be back in a moment
Yes.
to delve deeper into those later steps.
Including one of Ramsey's most bold statements, I think.
Okay.
Paying off your mortgage entirely.
Ooh, state.
It takes work,
Mm-hmm.
Sacrifice gazelle intensity.
You can't keep up with the Joneses if you're climbing a mountain.
Exactly. And it might take a while,
Because it's 7 years.
Yeah, 7 years of intense focus.
But can you imagine?
I know. No more mortgage.
It's got to be such a relief.
Oh, the weight off your shoulders.
And then all that money you were paying towards your mortgage,
Yeah.
you can do so much with it.
Invest it. Give it away.
Travel, enjoy life.
Exactly. Speaking of enjoying life,
Yeah.
I think it's important to point out,
Mm-hmm.
Ramsey's not saying you can't have any fun.
Right. It's not all deprivation.
Remember those 3 uses for money.
Fun, investing, giving.
Yeah, it's about finding that balance.
And I think that balance shifts as you go through this step.
For sure, like in the beginning,
Yeah.
you might have to cut back a little.
You're focused on that debt reduction.
But as you progress,
Yeah.
you have more flexibility.
So maybe in the early days, it's like...
Picnics in the park instead of fancy vacations.
Right. And realizing that
Yeah.
contentment doesn't come from like
stuff.
Yeah, all those things.
It's about that peace of mind.
Financial peace of mind.
And living in line with your values.
All right. And that brings us to, well,
Okay.
the final step.
Baby step 7.
Build wealth and give.
Okay, so now you've paid off all your debt.
Everything, mortgage included.
Yeah, so now it's time to
Yeah.
really build that future for yourself and your family.
It's like now you're playing offense,
Yeah, I like that.
not just defense anymore.
So take all that money you were throwing at debt
Yeah.
and put it to work.
Rake it grow.
And Ramsey's big on the long game, right?
Oh, absolutely. He's not about
Yeah.
trying to time the market or get rich quick.
He says build that diversified portfolio,
Mhm.
good growth stock mutual funds
And hold on to them
for the long haul.
for the long haul. And again,
Yeah.
when he talks about that 12% average return, it's important to remember past performance isn't a guarantee.
Of future results.
Exactly. The market can be unpredictable.
And there's always some risk.
But over time,
Over time. Yeah.
historically, the market has gone up.
And he's also really big on giving back.
Whoa, huge, he says.
Yeah.
You know, wealth isn't just about money, it's about making a difference.
And he tells stories about people who,
Yeah.
use their financial freedom to support charities.
Or fund scholarships.
Start their own nonprofit.
It's a reminder that,
Yeah.
real wealth goes beyond just our own bank accounts.
It's about using your resources to help others.
Exactly. Okay, so we've talked about the baby steps,
Mm-hmm.
but I want to, address some of the myths
Oh, yeah. The myths and the misconceptions.
that Ramsey tackles in the book.
That idea.
One I hear all the time is
Yeah.
borrow as much as you can on your house.
Oh, because the interest rates are lower.
Yeah, and then you can invest that money
So it's like you're leveraging that debt.
to build wealth.
Yeah.
It's a dangerous game.
It is.
Sounds good on paper,
Yeah.
but what happens if the market tanks?
Or you lose your job.
Exactly. Suddenly that low-interest debt,
Is a huge problem.
a huge burden,
And let's be honest, most people
Yeah.
aren't actually earning more on their investment.
when they're paying an interest.
Right. It's not as simple as it sounds.
You got to look at all the fees
And the expenses.
and the psychological stress of all that debt.
Oh, the stress is real.
It is. Another myth he debunks is
Okay.
adjustable rate mortgages or balloon mortgages.
Oh, yeah, the ones that seem like a good idea.
If you're only going to be in the house a few years,
Right.
but
They can be so risky.
especially if interest rates go up,
You could end up having to sell.
not on your terms.
And he tells some, really sad stories.
I know.
People who thought they were being smart,
Yeah.
but ended up facing foreclosure
because they couldn't refinance.
or make those balloon payments.
It's a reminder that
Yeah. Short-term thinking can have long-term consequences.
big consequences. And while we're on the topic of risky moves,
Okay.
don't use a home equity line of credit.
As an emergency fund?
No, it's tempting because
Yeah, the interest rates are lower.
than credit cards, but you're
Yeah.
basically turning your house into a giant credit card.
And if you can't make those payments,
You can lose your home.
it's a gamble, not worth it.
Ramsey's all about building that solid foundation,
On saving, on planning,
making those intentional choices.
that align with your values.
He wants us to question everything.
Yeah, all those messages we get
From society, from the media.
about what we should buy, how we should spend.
Take a step back and ask yourself,
Yeah.
what really matters?
What makes you happy?
Is it stuff?
Or is it security, peace of mind, generosity?
He has this great line. He says,
Yeah.
you have more control than you think.
I love that.
It's about taking charge.
Of your finances, of your life.
And he challenges this whole idea
Yeah.
that debt is normal.
Right. Like it's just part of life.
But it's actually a pretty recent thing.
Driven by,
Consumerism.
an easy credit.
Exactly. So I want to circle back to something Ramsey talks about.
Yeah.
It's not just about a money makeover.
Yeah.
It's about a total money makeover.
Okay. So it's not just
Right.
tweaking a few habits here and there.
It's about transforming
Your whole relationship with money.
your beliefs, your behavior.
Everything. He compares it to a
Yeah.
plastectomy.
Oh, wow.
Like literally cutting up your credit
A
cards.
clean break
Yeah, to show that commitment.
to a new way of life.
And if you're married or in a relationship,
Yeah.
he stresses how important it is to be on the same page.
100%.
You got to work together.
Financial unity is key.
He tells this funny story
Yeah.
about a woman named Sherry
Okay.
who called into his radio show
Oh, wow.
because her husband wanted to use their emergency fund to pay off debt,
Okay.
but he wouldn't sell his truck.
Oh, class.
And Sherry was upset, understandably.
Of course.
But guess what?
What happened?
After hearing his wife on the radio,
Oh, no way.
the husband changed his mind,
He sold the truck.
sold the truck, paid off the debt,
Wow.
rebuilt their emergency fund together.
That's amazing. It just shows, like,
Yeah.
the power of communication
And compromise
and working together.
towards that common goal.
It can really strengthen a relationship.
It can. And another thing Ramsey talked about is how women often have a stronger need
Yeah.
for financial security.
He calls it the security gland.
I love that.
And it can go into overdrive.
When there's financial stress.
So knowing there's a solid plan in place,
Mm-hmm.
a good emergency fund,
Yeah.
and a partner who's committed,
He can really ease that anxiety
it creates a sense of safety for everyone.
for the whole family.
Okay, before we wrap up our deep dive,
Yeah.
we need to talk about budgeting.
Budgeting, the cornerstone,
He even calls it baby step zero.
because you do it throughout the whole process.
It's not just a one-time thing.
And he's a big fan of the zero-based budget.
Have you ever tried that?
I have. It's challenging, but it's
Yeah.
so empowering.
You're giving every dollar a job.
Before the month even begins,
You're deciding where it goes.
instead of wondering where it went.
Exactly. And he has all these tools.
Yeah, the Every Dollar app is great.
It makes it so much easier.
And he emphasizes that,
Yeah.
it's not about being perfect
It's about awareness.
and making adjustments as needed.
He's also big on tracking your spending.
Oh, yeah, shining a light on it.
Those areas where your money's slipping away,
You'd be surprised how much you spend on things.
you don't even really care about.
It's like those little leaks in a boat.
I love that analogy.
You might not notice them at first
They can sink you.
if you don't plug them up.
So we've covered a lot today.
From gazelle intensity to zero-based budgets.
We've really unpacked it all.
But before we wrap up completely, let's take a moment to gather our thoughts.
All right, little pause
We'll be back in a moment to share some final takeaways.
and a challenge for you.
Okay, so we're back and ready to kind of wrap up our look at the total money makeover.
Yeah, we've been through a lot,
We have debunking those debt myths, gazelle intensity, the baby steps.
Even some of the more controversial stuff.
Yeah, like his stance on credit cards and paying off the mortgage early.
But what I think makes Ramsey so effective
Yeah.
is he explains the WHY,
It's not just a list of rules.
Right, it's about understanding the reasoning behind it.
And it really makes you rethink, like, your
Yeah.
whole relationship with money.
Your definition of success.
Exactly. He's pushing back against that I want it now culture.
Oh, for sure. He's all about the long game,
Long-term thinking.
building that financial stability,
Finding contentment beyond just,
material things.
stuff. Yeah. And he actually quotes Zig Ziglar in the book.
Oh, yeah.
Who said, if you aim at nothing, you'll hit it every time.
That's a good one.
It's so true. Like, if you don't have a plan,
We're just drifting.
and that's when you end up in trouble.
Financial stress, missed opportunities.
And Ramsey's plan, while it's not easy,
Right.
it does give you that roadmap.
To get where you want to go.
And he talks about it like a log jam, how we
Okay.
get stuck in that cycle of debt.
Mm-hmm.
But then he gives you those steps
Yeah.
to break free,
Sell stuff you don't need.
then a side hustle.
Cut back on expenses.
And then once that log jam breaks,
Watch out.
that's when the debt snowball really gets going.
The momentum builds.
You start seeing those wins.
Remember, the plastectomy.
Oh, yeah, the credit card cutting.
A powerful visual, right?
It is. It's about breaking that dependence and rediscovering the power of cash.
You're more mindful when you're actually handing over those bills.
And I know some people might think,
Yeah.
his view on credit cards is a little extreme.
It can seem that way.
But he makes a good point about
Mm-hmm.
how using cash can actually help you save money.
You're less likely to impulse buy.
And it's not about never using credit again.
Right. It's about using it wisely.
Once you've built that foundation,
Exactly. When you're in control.
not the other way around.
And I also love how he emphasizes giving back.
Oh, yeah, that's a big part of his philosophy.
It's like generosity is a key part of true wealth.
And he's not just talking about money,
Right. It's about those relationships, experiences.
making a difference in the world.
And he shares those amazing stories in the book
Yeah, about people who use their financial freedom to help others.
to give back to their communities.
It's really inspiring.
It shows you that money can be a force for good.
So what's the one thing our listeners should take away from all this?
I think it's that financial freedom is possible,
For anyone.
no matter where you're starting.
It takes work, it takes sacrifice,
But the rewards are so worth it.
peace of mind, contentment, generosity.
The ability to live life on your own terms.
That's the power of a total money makeover.
And Ramsey leaves us with this question, he says.
Oh, yeah.
There are only 3 good uses for money: fun, investing, and giving.
Okay.
Which of these areas are you neglecting?
Good question.
And what could you do differently?
Something to think about.
It's about taking a look at your priorities, your choices.
And remembering, your total money makeover
Starts today.